Last week, the nation watched again another episode that is the metastasizing cancer of America's addiction to guns and violence as a man in Oregon walked into a classroom, shot and killed the teacher, handed a student that the shooter identified as the lucky one a package to deliver to authorities that apparently contained a manifesto of sorts, then killed 8 more people before killing himself.
We know that other countries, in response to one mass shooting, have been able to craft laws that almost eliminate mass shootings. Friends of ours, allies of ours, Great Britain, Australia, countries like ours.
Now, we know the kind of gun reforms that politicos and pundits advocate for in the aftermath of these tragedies: background checks, electronic fingerprint technology, closing gun show loopholes, and other similar reasonable measures will do little to rein in the growing laundry list of mass killings in places like Oregon, Columbine, Newtown, Aurora, and coming soon to a town near you, because in most cases, these are guns purchased legally and licensed legally. Furthermore, the types of reforms often being advanced won't fly, not so much because the NRA has a vice-like grip on lawmakers, and there is evidence that the NRA's influence is overstated, dwindling, or both, but because of how the Supreme Court has interpreted the Second Amendment. But Supreme Court's opinions can move with the zeitgeist of the times. See marriage equality for a recent positive example of that. So how rock solid is the Second Amendment? As direct, unambiguous, easy to understand English sentences go, the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is about as easy to understand as Brad Pitt in Snatch. What was that, sir?
On you, hey, this caravan.
Could you, I didn't quite,
Hey, look, she wants a heck of 2 roof lights, the stylish house frame furniture, and the Scotter cushions with the matching shack cover. Yeah, right. It's just terrible partial to the periwinkle blue bags.
Try this on for size. A well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed. A reasonable person would read that sentence and come to the conclusion that the framers of the Bill of Rights' single-minded focus in crafting the guarantee to, quote, keep and bear arms was on military uses of firearms, which they viewed in the context of service in state militias. I share that reasonable conclusion with the individual who authored that sentence I just spoke, Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens, who penned that sentence in 2008 dissenting Supreme Court opinion of the case District of Columbia versus Heller. Stevens also wrote, quote, while the need for state militias has not been a matter of significant public interest for almost 2 centuries, the fact should not obscure the contemporary concerns that animated the framers. Well, listen, Justice John Paul, it might not have been a matter of, quote, significant public interest for almost 2 centuries for white folks intent on forgetting that this country was built on the backs of slavery. La 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 la, no me, no slavery. But let's be clear. The concerns that animated the framers of the Bill of Rights included a very significant fact. Militias were used to suppress slave rebellions. That is the bedrock upon which the Second Amendment is built, to protect the economic interests, to say nothing of the actual lives and scalps of plantation owners. But here we are in 2015. Guns, they tell us, when operated by people, sometimes kill people. And yes, they tell us cars, when operated by people, also sometimes kill people. However, A, we require car drivers to carry insurance, and B, when a car kills someone, it is an accident. When a gun kills someone, it is fulfilling its form, function, and design. That is what it was made to do. And so there is a design flaw here in both the manufacture of guns and weapons of mass destruction and in the Bill of Rights. Nevertheless, President Obama captured the mood of the country when he traveled the well-worn path to the podium and politicized the issue.
Somehow this has become routine. The reporting is routine. My response here at this podium ends up being routine. The conversation in the aftermath of it, we've become numb to this. We talked about this after Columbine and Blacksburg, after Tucson, after Newtown, after Aurora, after Charleston. It cannot be this easy for somebody who wants to inflict harm on other people to get his or her hands on a gun. And what's become routine, of course, is the response of those who oppose any kind of common sense gun legislation. Right now, I can imagine the press releases being cranked out. We need more guns, they'll argue. Fewer gun safety laws. Does anybody really believe that?
What does it say about us when a president can connect with us so easily by basically throwing up his hands and saying that there's nothing to be done? He knows that a tomorrow will come and he's going to have to make that speech again. The talking heads and the pundits and the politicians and the online conspiracy theorists who think this is all a CIA has a stable of so-called crisis actors who stage these events so Obama can take their guns away will rise from the dark corners of the internet, and each will play their part, all of us ignoring a larger context. That's very important. President Obama is the commander-in-chief of the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. Generations have yielded rivers upon rivers of bloodshed upon which we have built our empire, and that knowledge contributes to our numbness, to our alienation. In fact, almost on cue, it seemed, the imperial U.S. military machine had a bombing campaign go awry, and instead of hitting the quote-unquote bad guys, conducted an air raid on a Doctors Without Borders hospital in Afghanistan, killing 19 doctors, patients, and workers, and injuring many more, as if to say, don't forget about me. I'm not sure about you, but for me there's a deep disconnect in the President of the United States standing in front of us, mystified about how to stop gun violence at home, when violence as a concept and as actual hardware is our #1 U.S. export. It's like the CEO of Philip Morris handing out free cigarettes to his children so they can, quote, use these cigarettes safely and responsibly, and then crying in genuine confused anguish when they all get cancer and die.